What's up, guys? Happy Red Friday. Farzin Vasugian here with you for another installment of the Red Friday Q&A live chat. Welcome in. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're all having a great Red Friday. It's been a good Red Friday for Kansas City as we got some good news involving Xavier Worthy. He is set to play on Sunday. And as far as the rest of Chiefs news goes, more so from the Ravens side of games as far as the game goes ahead of Chiefs Ravens for Sunday. Baltimore is banged up across the board. This is a Baltimore team that's going to be missing a lot of pieces, and among the players that may play will be far from 100%. Obviously, you've got Xavier Worthy, who, listen, I have a lot of questions as to what he'll look like. I know he's practiced, but let's be honest, you're not going out there trying to hurt your own teammates in practice. You're just not. There's no way. But as far as the Ravens go, man, they're missing a lot of players. I think this is going to be a good game for Kansas City with or without Worthy. And the fact that Worthy is expected to play and the Chiefs feel pretty comfortable with him moving forward for Sunday's game, I'm expecting a really big game from Kansas City's offense in the passing game. Listen, you look at the Ravens, they're bad defensively. They're 32nd in total defense. 31st in stopping the run, 30th in stopping the pass, 31st in points allowed, 24th in red zone, 24th in on third down, and 28th in red zone defense. That is pretty damn bad across the board. And I feel like with this Chiefs team right now, this is a team offensively, the Chiefs should have a really good game. Some people are not confident in that, but I think Kansas City will do pretty well against this Ravens team, with or without Worthy. Tyquan Thornton, if you look at all three games that we've played so far this year, you look at Tyquan Thornton, he's been beating his defenders every single game. He's going out there getting wide open. Him and Mahomes just haven't had a chance to get a connection down because they're still learning about each other on the field, and they're starting to get a rhythm down. You saw Mahomes and Thornton go out there and get more connections in that Giants game. And I think against Baltimore's defense, which again is the worst in the NFL, that bodes well for Kansas City, especially the Mahomes-Thornton connection. Worthy. And again, if he's going to go out there and play, boy, that's just another player for Baltimore's defense to worry about. Because look at Kansas City's defense right now. Baltimore's defense right now when they face the Chiefs. You got to worry about Worthy. You got to worry about Thornton, Hollywood Brown, Juju. Got to worry about Kelsey. Kelsey's yard per catch average so far through 3 games is better than what it was last year through the first 3 games, and also really across all of last season. I think he was averaging just over 8.5 yards per catch. I don't have that number in front of me, but it's this year's average is way better than last year's. So Baltimore's defense can't double team everyone. I really can't double team anybody. This is a Baltimore team that's going to have his hands full on Sunday. And I'm excited to see Patrick Mahomes go out there because when you look at the defensive line specifically, the Ravens have ruled out Nnamdi Madubuike and Broderick Washington. Those 2 guys are not going to play on Sunday. That is a big blow to Baltimore's defense. Kyle Van Noy, he's questionable for the game. Travis Jones, questionable for the game. That's not good for your defense. Patrick Mahomes is going to have a field day. I think he's going to have a lot of time in the pocket. I think this is also an opportunity for the offensive line to maybe gain some confidence, especially those young guys, Simmons and Suamataia. Jawan Taylor, maybe a chance to try to fix some of the errors he's made in the first 3 games and be better about it this game. So call me overconfident, but I feel pretty damn good about Kansas City's offense. I know the matchup, the Chiefs defense, which has played great all year, versus the Ravens offense, which has been very good all year also. The Ravens offense is the number 1 scoring team in the league. So that's a matchup that's going to be very intriguing. Something's got to give there. But as far as the Chiefs offense, which has not been consistent, and the Ravens defense, which has been bad, I'm giving that edge to Kansas City 11 times out of 10. That's how good I feel about the Chiefs offense going into this game. And by the way, if you guys have a question for me, comment below, drop your questions, whatever it is you want to talk about, Chiefs, Ravens, NFL, college football, whatever you want to talk about. Let's talk about it on this episode of the Red Friday Q&A live chat. Let me know your thoughts. What is on your mind? And I'll answer whatever questions you guys want to have answered. I just look at third down. They've allowed a 45% conversion rate on third down. That's pretty bad. And again, that's 24th in the NFL. One of the worst red zone defenses in the league. So I just look across the board. And again, they're either 32nd, 31st, or 30th in one of those key defensive categories: total defense, against the pass, against the run, points allowed per game. They are third worst, or they're in the bottom three, basically. So Kansas City's offense, and I'm not going to call it a get-right game, because I thought Baltimore's defense was going to be better against Detroit. And like I've said the first couple of weeks, in my opinion, some people say 2 weeks, some people say 4 weeks. I honestly do believe you get a good grasp of who teams are in terms of who has a good offense, who has a good defense. I think you have a good idea of who teams are after 3 weeks. I do. And right now, we can say that Baltimore's defense is pretty bad. Kansas City's offense has potential. They certainly have the ability to be one of the best, and we'll see when they get Rashee Rice back. And I think that will be a better indicator of what the team is offensively when Rice returns in week 7. Worthy obviously coming back this week. We'll see if he's going to be able to go full speed. That's my biggest question going into that game. But I feel pretty good about this Chiefs offense for this game. I think they're going to improve in some areas, and they're going to go out there and beat up on this Ravens team. I told you my score prediction on Wednesday. I'm going 34-17 Kansas City. That's how confident I am in this game. Let's see what other news and notes. The one concern I do have with the Chiefs defense, they haven't done a good job in particular with QB spies this season. And obviously, when you play Lamar Jackson, that's something that every defense just has to be ready for. Detroit's defense was all over Lamar Jackson. They gave him no lanes to run for. And Kansas City's got to do a really good job of that. Similar to how they did in the AFC Championship game when the Chiefs were on the road and won Super Bowl 58, that postseason. Kansas City's defense did not allow Lamar Jackson to run free the way they wanted him to. I mean, Lamar Jackson was going for a wide receiver screen. Chris Jones just swats the pass down on a third down play in that game. I remember at one point, Lamar Jackson was trying to make a run for it. Chiefs defense not giving him the lanes to run for. Usually when defenders up front near the line of scrimmage, they tend to be cautious. So that gives the quarterback a little bit more time to throw. But on that same exact play, Lamar Jackson had no one to throw to. This was in the second half. I think specifically in the fourth quarter when Baltimore was trying to get back into the game. They had only scored one touchdown that entire game. And Lamar Jackson had no one to throw to because that entire secondary was covering everyone. And this Chiefs team, the second, you're not going to see it on the stat sheet. And yeah, they got a couple of interceptions last game, but they had none the first 2 games. When you look at overall this team through the first 3 weeks, week 1, they weren't very good in coverage. They were letting Justin Herbert get a lot of open guys. But since then, they've done a really good job of shutting offenses down. Now, I know Russell Wilson, not the most impressive player to shut down, considering that he just got benched for Jackson Dart. But Jalen Hurts, that guy has Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. And the Chiefs hardly let those guys do much in that game. And I was on the podcast saying, hey, I think those 2 guys are going to have a really good game against Kansas City's defense. And they didn't. I was wrong about that. So I think that this is one of those situations, and I understand Mark Andrews is looking pretty good. He had a really good game against Detroit. Isaiah likely may play in this game. We don't know. Zay Flowers, he's gotten off to a really good start this season. But, man, I just feel like Kansas City, especially with Ronnie Stanley right now banged up, man, I'm feeling pretty good about that Chiefs defensive line. I think they can do some good things against Baltimore in this game, offensively and defensively. That's how I'm going for the 34-17 blowout win. I think the Chiefs will win by 17 in this one. I honestly think it's a surprise that Baltimore is favored by 2.5, and the line has not changed all week. As far as the money line goes, I think the Chiefs are still at plus 124. I think it was 120 on Sunday night, and that was before the Ravens played. And then after the Ravens played, the Chiefs money line went up a little bit. Don't know how, don't know why. This is one of those where I do kind of question the numbers that are being put together here. How is it that Baltimore is the favored team on the betting lines by 2.5? No, I mean, again, they're recognizing it's going to be close, but I just feel like, how can you really say Baltimore at 2.5 when the Chiefs are at home? They're getting Xavier Worthy back. Tyquan Thornton, he's starting to build a rapport with Patrick Mahomes. That's not good news for a 32nd ranked defense. A defense that's 30th against the pass. I feel pretty good about this game. Feeling pretty damn good. All right, I am turning it over to you guys. You guys ask whatever questions you have, anything you want to talk about with the Chiefs, Ravens, NFL, whatever's on your mind, ask it below, and we will chat it up. Let's see. Where is the first question? Paul says, issue I have with Worthy is that they want to hit you more than tackle you, and one shot on Torn Lambert is bad. Yeah, see, this is my concern. I've said this all week. The Chiefs have mishandled some injuries in the past. Look, you never want to intentionally injure someone, but let's be completely honest. Do you not think Baltimore is going to be aggressive at the line of scrimmage? I mean, I would. Why wouldn't you? Go up to Worthy, give him a nice little knockdown within the first 5 yards, within the legal window right there. That is a concern of mine. I mean, I hope the Chiefs know what they're doing. I know there's that video of Worthy dancing in practice during warmups and all that. Okay, that's cool and all, but in practice, your teammates are not hitting you like it's a live game. They're treating you like your teammate. You don't try to hurt your own teammate. So that's the part that really does concern me. But that's also why I keep saying that's the one thing I'm going to keep an eye on the most. I'm curious to see if he's going to be on a snap count. That's one thing to be aware of going into this game. I think the team has a good defense, but need our receivers back. Go get Hardman back. He will be cheap. Look, I know McCole Hardman. I guess there's that emotional attachment there because he's been part of this dynasty for all 3 Super Bowl wins. And he, of course, was the guy on the receiving end of the overtime walk-off touchdown. And listen, I know what a lot of people are going to say. Well, that's like the easiest play call. Okay, maybe not the easiest play call, but they made it look easy. I mean, what's so difficult about it? Not that anyone wants to be reminded of this in Kansas City, but that play was not guaranteed. You all know the storyline that year with the Chiefs. They led the league in drops by a very wide margin, and it was on pace to match the 0-16 Cleveland Browns from a few years ago. So, yeah, sure, that corn dog play put McCole Hardman in the most wide open space you could ever get in. But that's, first of all, you still have to do your job in selling the play, fooling the defense, and then also catching it. As we all know, that catch was not guaranteed that year. Maybe any other year, yeah, sure, looks great, but that was not a guarantee. I still remember seeing that in the air, and I'm like, please catch it. He's wide open. That has to go your way. And keep in mind, McCole Hardman, a couple of games before that in Buffalo fumbled twice inside the 5. One of them went for a touchback. So anyway, I got off topic. The point I'm trying to say with Hardman is I think we've moved on from Hardman. Have we not? I mean, if we start seeing the injury bug go around, okay, maybe I'll entertain this idea. But why is McCole Hardman not getting an opportunity? The Jets were not using him. When the Chiefs brought him back from the Jets, he wasn't really being used a whole lot. Patrick was trying to get the ball to him, and he just wasn't doing a good job of locating the football in mid. McCole Hardman's got dynamic speed. He's got a great skill set, but he doesn't do a good job of locating the football, and ball security has been a problem with him. I mean, he went to Green Bay, a team that's doing great right now. I know they're coming off an embarrassing loss to the Browns, but I would bet that they'll bounce back from that. I still think they're the best team in the NFC. I would, like, if I had to bet right now who's going to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl, I'll pick Green Bay. Why did McCole Hardman not make it in Green Bay? Why could he have not been one of the 5, 6, or 7 wide receivers that they have on their roster? The fact that this guy is one of the fastest wide receivers in the NFL and can't even make the Packers 53-man roster, just lasted a couple of weeks on the practice squad, that's a concern. That's a big concern. You know who else is available, by the way? And not that this was your question, James, but Justin Ross is still out there. Remember all the hype and people talking about how this guy would have been a first-round pick if it wasn't for the injury? Justin Ross is not on any team right now. So, I don't know, man. I think Veach and his staff knew what they were doing when they let Hardman go, when they let Ross go. I know Ross requested to be let go so he could have an opportunity elsewhere, but nobody signed him. Did anyone give Justin Ross a training camp invite? Maybe they invited him, but I don't think he signed with anybody. Yeah, they let him go on July the 16th, and nobody signed him. I know he was receiving interest from other teams. Now, whether or not they gave him a training camp invite, that I have no idea. But I think Kansas City, like whoever was on that wide receiver group a couple of years ago, I think they want to just move on from that group completely, with the exception of Rashee Rice. Defense has to contain Lamar. They've done it before, lock down his targets. Yeah, that's exactly what the Chiefs defense did in the AFC Championship game. So I'm hoping they can do that again. Thornton, 100 yards game is very possible. I actually bet that Thornton will get 2 touchdowns. I put that on DraftKings. Promo code Farzine for you new customers. We need to stop them on third down, and we need to finish in the red zone on offense. Yeah, the offense needs to be more consistent. They have not gotten off to a good start. They have not had an opening drive touchdown since the AFC Championship game. Now, they did score on their opening drive last week. Wasn't a touchdown, but still found a way to score. So they're making some kind of progress. Do you think with Worthy back, it'll get back on track? Are you asking... Jason, are you asking if the offense in general will get back on track? Here's the thing, assuming that's your question. We've been hearing for more than a year now, and I understand injuries have been an issue here, but we've been hearing it for a long time now. Oh, yeah, we've got speed across the board, and that's going to bring back the deep pass game. Now, I feel like the deep pass game has come back a little bit, has enough. Let me just ask you this. Through 3 games so far with the Chiefs, would you say that the deep pass game has made a comeback without Xavier Worthy? And no, I'm not counting the 3 snaps he played. Like, you can hardly count that. Without Rice, without Worthy, do you think the deep pass game has come back a little bit in Kansas City? Because I do. The pass blocking has not been perfect, far from it. Juwan Taylor's got some things to work on. Kingsley Suamata has got some things to work on. But I still feel like, in general, the pass blocking is better. The problem is with the Chiefs offense, the execution needs to be more consistent. If Mahomes connects with Tyquan Thornton on a couple of those passes where he overthrew him, I think we'd see some different outcomes. And of course, the Kelsey situation inside the one against Philly. So my whole thing is, I think Mahomes and Thornton, they've got a rhythm down. I think they have a better understanding of each other on the field. It's different in OTAs. It's different in training camp. It's different in the preseason. Some guys are preseason legends. Does not mean it carries over to the regular season. Tyquan Thornton, all the things that he had done in practice and in the preseason, that's carrying over to the regular season. And that's great to see. You need that, especially with two guys, two very key wide receivers missing for you right now. So I do think the offense is going to get back on track. And again, this is a really bad defense. So this is a good opportunity to kind of learn more about each other on the field and go have fun and try to carry that over the following week and the week after when you face a better defense. Let me check some Instagram questions. Is anyone on Instagram asking anything? No, people are just saying go Chiefs, giving their score predictions. Okay, that's cool. All right. Well, if anyone on Instagram has a question, just drop it in the Instagram comment box. Otherwise, we'll go back to StreamYard where it combines Facebook, YouTube, and X. What's the over-under on a Henry fumble? I thought you were about to ask a regular. I was about to give you the answer to the regular over-under, which I think is still at 48.5. Yeah, actually, I'll tell you this. You want to know another thing I bet on? I bet on the under for Derrick Henry rushing yards. I think the odds makers, they are overconfident on Derrick Henry on this one here. Now, let me just get the exact number here because I want to be correct. Yeah, 85.5. That's an easy under for me. 100% easy under. I feel pretty good about that one. Do we really think we needed a spy to this point? I don't think we think that. I think we know that. I mean, right? Like, come on. If you don't contain Lamar Jackson, that can change the game a little bit. Not a little bit. That can change the game a lot, actually. Because Lamar Jackson's one of the top 5 passers in the league this year. I have it on here. Where does he rank? He is 4th in completion percentage, 10th in passing yards. He has the most touchdown passes this year with 9. So he knows how to fool a defense. Kansas City's defense has not been fooled much by Lamar in the past. Now, I will say this, and you guys know I brought this number up many times. The Chiefs have gone 29 consecutive games without allowing a running back to run for 100 yards, playoffs included. But there's one player during those 29 games that's run for 100 yards, and that's Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is the only player that's run for 100 yards on the Chiefs in the last 29 games the Chiefs have played. And he's not a running back, he's a quarterback. And that was obviously the week 1 game last year between the Chiefs and Ravens that came down to a toe. Literally a toe. So that's the one thing that concerns me. If the Chiefs don't contain Lamar Jackson, that can make a difference, and that could turn it into a shootout. Can the Chiefs win in a shootout? And then, if it does become a shootout, win or lose, I think we'll be coming off the game, talking a lot about the Chiefs defense and maybe asking who they are. Because since week 1, they've looked good. Again, small sample size, I get that, but I think this is who they are. I mean, it's not like this is their first time looking like this. We've seen it last year and the year before. So I anticipate them to do really well again against the Ravens defense. Got to factor in Lamar has never won at Arrowhead, and Spag's defensive scheme seems to give Lamar issues. Yeah, exactly. That's what we were just talking about, Blake. Absolutely, 100%. Bottom line, the right tackle has been an absolute liability. I haven't heard that one before. Needs to get cut. Well, the cut's not happening now, but I would say in the offseason. Yes, I think the Chiefs win. Defense is way better with Ashton Gelati, Omar Normalot, and Williams in on defense. Who's Williams? Which Williams are you referring to? There are so many Jalen's on the team, especially like going into that Eagles game. It's like Jalen Hurts, Jalen Carter, Jalen Royals, Jalen Watson. I mean, I know a couple of Royals specifically didn't play, but it was just so many Jalen's to talk about that week. Which Williams are you talking about? I don't see anyone with the last name Williams. I'm assuming you mean Josh Williams. Oh, you're talking about Noel Williams? I would guess you're talking about either Josh Williams or Noel Williams. I will say Noel Williams, he's done really well this year. I mean, you're mentioning the Chiefs rookie, so I think you're referring to Noel Williams. Dude, this Chiefs rookie class has quietly performed really well. Omar Norman looks like a monster out there. That dude is close to having like 4 or 5 sacks on the season. And Spags was even alluding to that in his press conference yesterday. Priest Holmes is banging the drum any chance he can line up in the backfield. See, that's what people said about Tyrann Mathieu the last home game, and now people are saying that about Priest Holmes. Yeah. Boy, man, Priest was special. He was something else. Like, there will never be another Priest Holmes. The things that guy did, you just never saw any other running back do. That's because they can score and we struggle to score. Why is Mahomes so inconsistent on easy throws? I feel like the offense in general just has been inconsistent. Mahomes has been missing on deep shots quite a lot lately. I think, and I said that before, part of that is, just trying to get used to these new receivers. Again, I don't care how great you look in practice with them. It's what you do in practice is much different than what you do in a preseason game, and even more different in a regular season game. So I think that's been part of it. I think Mahomes was better about it last week against New York. So I'd be curious to see that against a bad defense in Baltimore. I think Mahomes will be able to connect on a lot of his passes in this game. Did Tooney's absence really create the missing running game we're currently experiencing? I've said this before, but I feel like Pacheco has been struggling a lot lately in the playoffs. Like last year, he struggled a lot when he came back from his injury. But even before that, in the postseason, the run to Super Bowl 58, Pacheco wasn't really playing that well. He was like the weakest link on the offense. Look, to answer your question, I mean, Tooney's absence 100% is missed. But is his absence really creating that big of an impact, a negative impact in the running game? I say no. And here's why. If you go back and watch some of the games the Chiefs have played in, the first 2 games specifically, Isaiah Pacheco is just attacking the wrong holes. Like, I remember there was one play in Brazil against the Chargers. Josh Simmons is going down the field and is ready to throw a block. But because Isaiah Pacheco cuts to the inside rather than the outside, the defender was basically able to nullify Josh Simmons, because Josh Simmons thinks Pacheco's, behind him attacking the outside gap. So I think it's more vision issues than anything else. That's my opinion. Patrick's leading the league in deep throws. Let me just double check on that. I think I saw something about that where he is one of the top in the league in that category. But let me just make sure of that, because he and Thornton have connected on a couple of big plays. Where is that? For whatever reason, it's not showing the big plays. Let's see here. See, Tyquan Thornton is tied 9th with Devontae Adams, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, and Zay Flowers for receptions of 20 yards or more. So to give you an idea, Jackson, Smith, and Jigba, and keep in mind the Seahawks have played one more game. He has 8. Puka Nakua, Tatoria McMillan, Jacoby Myers, Ricky Pearsall, and Quentin Johnston, Wandale Robinson, Malik Neighbors. They're all tied 4th with 5. Sorry, McMullen and Puka are tied 2nd with 6. And then the other players I mentioned with Thornton, they're tied 9. So Tyquan Thornton is in the top 10 in big play completions. Are any other Chiefs even close to that? Travis Kelce has 2. Well, I mean, a bunch of players have 2, so that's nothing too big. Yeah, I don't see how Mahomes would be leading the league in that category because I don't. On ESPN, it doesn't let you sort that, but I mean, listen, I think those big plays, more of them will be available for Mahomes. Can we just let Jawan Taylor go anywhere but the field? Yeah. Sometimes I wonder if New England has serious regrets about letting Thornton go, seeing how he is thriving. I bet they're happy for him, but wonder what could have been. I'll say this. I have a friend who's a Patriots fan, and he told me last year, he goes, dude, we fucked up. You guys got a good receiver. That's what he told me. Look, sometimes we talked about this earlier in the week, and I know this has been a really big conversation. I know on Shannon Sharp's podcast that he does with Ocho, they had Tyquan Thornton on. It was actually a good conversation. Tyquan didn't say anything that was particularly new that he hadn't said in press conferences this week, because he did one on Monday, he did one on Wednesday. Everyone's talking about Tyquan Thornton. But that topic did come up about New England. Sometimes a change of scenery is just needed in sports. Does it always work? No. Here's another thing. Listen, you guys know this. When someone is playing college football, it's because they were the shit in high school. They were really, really good at what they did. Now, not every single high school college football player is going to make it in the NFL. So of the 256 or however many draft selections are made, not all of them are going to be great. Some are going to be good, some are going to be bad, and some are going to be just kind of like down the middle, just enough to be able to have a career for a few years. Everyone that gets drafted in the NFL, they were great in college and they were great in high school. My point is this. Tyquan Thornton had done some really good things in the past to get drafted in the second round. Why did things not work in New England? Well, here's another question. How come nothing was working in New England the last few years? It didn't matter if it was Bill Belichick, Gerard Mayo, whoever the head coach was, whoever the offensive coordinator was. Nothing was working in New England. Nothing was working. Absolutely nothing. They tried a bunch of different quarterbacks. They had Bailey Zappi, who's familiar with Kansas City's offense. They've had Mac Jones. They've had Cam Newton. I mean, Drake May. Like a lot of different quarterbacks have come into New England, and none of them were able to get anything going. They've drafted 2 quarterbacks in the first round since Brady left. So why didn't Thornton get things down? I think to answer your question, it's because he was surrounded by a really bad situation. And look, I'm a big fan of Mike Vrabel, and I really do believe that he'll get New England going in the right direction. But you can't, I agree with you though. Like New England has to be thinking to themselves, how did we screw this up? We blamed him when it was really us. And if they don't view it that way, they've got a lot of self-reflecting to do. Otherwise, they're not going to improve. I mean, Mike Vrabel, as much as I love the guy, and I think he did some great things in Tennessee, and I think Tennessee's going to regret letting him go. He was able to do a lot with very little in Tennessee. Remember when Derrick Henry got hurt with the Titans? The Titans got the number 1 seed that year. Why? Well, it helps that you have a coach like Mike Vrabel. I've said that, listen, if I had to trade Andy Reid for any NFL coach, there's only one coach I would trade him for, and that'd be Mike Vrabel. And I know the offense might be completely different, but the only reason I would even do that is because Andy Reid's up there in age. But honestly, like, there's no other coach I'd rather have right now in the league than Mike Vrabel, excluding Andy Reid. Obviously, Andy Reid's up there in age, so we're anticipating that the end is near for him. But, man, I just feel like even the best coaches still need talent around them. I think the best coaches can get a lot out of a player, but you still got to have good talent. And New England, the question was, are they just not drafting the right guys? Well, they drafted one good guy in Tyquan Thornton, and that's indicative of what he's doing right now with the Chiefs. So hopefully Thornton goes on to have a good career, whether he spends more time in Kansas City or wherever, because he's on a 1-year deal right now. And man, I don't want to see that guy in another team's jersey next year. I think he's going to replace Hollywood Brown next season. But there's a lot of time between now until then. I just feel like, and to answer your question, yeah, they have to be regretting it and wondering, how did we screw that up? But for Thornton, change of scenery. And to go back to my point about all these players who get drafted, there are a lot of great players who get drafted to terrible situations. Look at Trevor Lawrence. And I talked about this with Satish Shah, who was on my podcast a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about this. Look at Trevor Lawrence. That dude was advertised as a once-in-a-generation quarterback. And listen, he was drafted number 1 overall for a reason. The Jaguars aren't dummies. But have we seen that hype from Lawrence live up to expectations? No. Is that Trevor Lawrence's fault? No, it's not. That dude's had 3-4 different coaches, if you include interim coaches. Like, his very first coach, Urban Meyer, got fired before he could even complete 1 year with that franchise. I mean, some guys just have shitty luck and they get drafted to bad situations. You look at guys who get drafted to great situations, guys like Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes. Coincidentally, those guys both spent some time behind the quarterbacks that they were that were already on the team. Rodgers obviously had to wait a long time before Mahomes did, but did that not help? In addition to having a great team around him already? Yeah, and listen, there's nothing wrong with that. Again, some guys just get drafted to great situations. You can't ever apologize for creating a good environment. That's just the way things work. So I'm glad to see Thornton have some success here because, man, a player like that, his talent should never be wasted. And if he never got that opportunity with the Chiefs, he might not be in the NFL right now. He probably is working a completely different job. So good for him. The fact that he was able to work his ass off in practice and convince the Chiefs that he belongs in the NFL, and he's proven it to everyone else at the moment. Do you think we need to see more from Marquise? I feel as if he hasn't played to his best potential considering our receiver health. Okay, I was thinking about this earlier in the day. Let me say this about Hollywood Brown. I like that you called him Marquise, by the way. What was Hollywood Brown brought in for? Was he supposed to be your number 1 wide receiver on the team? No. Rashee Rice is a guy that was surging coming off his rookie season, and we saw what he did the first 3 games before the injury in week 4. Xavier Worthy, I know they drafted him because of maybe concerns of what would happen to Rashee Rice, but when they drafted him, they ended up having a wide receiver trio that were doing all kinds of great things in practice. Unfortunately, we only saw them for 1 snap, and that 1 snap was in the preseason when Hollywood got hurt. My point is, Hollywood's job was supposed to be to provide good depth on this team. Kind of like Sammy Watkins when he joined the Chiefs a few years ago. If Sammy Watkins was brought in to be your number 1 pass-catching target, you were doomed. But Sammy Watkins was not there to be your primary pass catcher. They already had Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, guys who were in their prime at the time. And you look at Watkins, he did a lot of great things, don't get me wrong. He just helped complement the offense. And that helped push the offense forward even more. I know Hollywood Brown for a number 1 wide receiver right this moment because Worthy and Rice are hurt. No, he's not playing like you would want any number 1 wide receiver to play. But Give it time. Let's hope that everyone can stay healthy by week 7, because when Rashee Rice comes back, your wide receiver is going to be Rice, Hollywood, Juju, Worthy. Hold on, let me start all over, because I can't even keep track anymore. Rice, Worthy, 2 recent early picks. Rice, Worthy, Hollywood, Juju, Thornton, Royals. You have Nico Remigio. I know the Chiefs like Jason Brownlee. He might go back to the practice squad. He might get poached by another team through the waiver wire. But, dude, that is a pretty damn good group of wide receivers there. So hold off on the Hollywood criticism, because I'm telling you now, Max, and everyone else involved as well, I think Hollywood's role will be someone to just help provide good depth on this offense and maybe be a key guy on third down. Because when everyone's on the field available, like, I'm excited to see what an empty backfield will look like when you have Kelsey, Worthy, Rice, Hollywood, and Thornton on the field at the same time. Those 5 guys. Oh, Patrick Mahomes is going to have options. No one's getting double teamed. Nobody. And if you double team someone, that's going to open up the door for another speedster. Or you can just throw it underneath to Travis Kelce and let him get a few yards after the catch. I think that's what's going to help, because when you had that wide receiver trio last offseason and this offseason, the thought was that this was those 3 wide receivers were going to help one another. They were all going to complement one another, and it was going to help the other get open. Kind of like when Tyreek and Travis were on the team in their prime. Whenever Tyreek had a big game, it's because a lot of the defense focused on Kelce, and maybe statistically Kelce had a quiet game. Same thing the other way around. Sometimes you'd see defenders shut down Tyreek Hill because they had 2 or 3 defenders covering him deep down the field, but they forgot about Travis Kelce and they let him have a big game. I think you're going to see something like that with that wide receiver trio. I guess you kind of have to consider Thornton now with the way he's playing, because if the Chiefs can stay healthy, this is going to be a pass catching unit that's going to be impossible to stop. To answer your question, do you think we need to see more from Hollywood Brown? Yes, I do think so. But I think once the other receivers return, Worthy and Rice, you will be able to see more from Hollywood. Probably a far more elaborate answer than you expected. Do you think the Chiefs will add or trade someone by the deadline? Maybe a running back? You look across the board in the NFL, you look at some of the 0-3 teams. You have the Saints, who have Alvin Kamara, the Jets, who have Breece Hall, and then the Dolphins, who have Devon Achane. Achane's got some great speed. I've always been a big fan of Breece Hall. Like, that dude physically is in tremendous shape. Like, I would love to see Breece Hall in the Chiefs uniform. Alvin Kamara, I don't know how easy it would be to get a guy like him, especially since he's a veteran and therefore probably has a veteran contract. I think Achane and Hall, aren't those guys on rookie deals? Let me check on that. Yeah, Breece Hall is. Whoops! What? How do I get rid of this advertisement? Help me. Like 90% of the screen is covered up with this Ben & Jerry's ad, and I don't know where the X button is. I literally do not care about Ben & Jerry's. And yes, I'm bitter that they got rid of the peanut butter fudge core. How do I get rid of this? Okay, I'm just going to refresh. Yeah, he's still on a rookie deal. What round was he taken? 2nd round. Okay, interesting. So yeah, Breece Hall, his cap hit is $4.3 million for this year. That's not terrible. Let me check Devon Achane, because I think he's on a rookie deal as well too. Yeah, he's still on a rookie and has 1 more year left. His cap hit, what was he was a 3rd round pick. His cap hit for this year is just under $1.5 million. Next year it's $1.7 million. So if you want to get someone that's really cheap and has another year left, Devon Achane would be the way to go. I mean, that is financially far more feasible. Brees Hall is still a cheap option. He's just, got a few more $1 million than Hn on his deal. Max says, how do you feel about the Tyreek trade rumors? I know it's a long shot, but do you think it's a possibility? No, I don't. For a couple of reasons. And I know Nate Taylor mentioned this. I think one of the reasons why Tyreek would not even be welcomed back, he doesn't have a good connection with the team today, to my understanding. And this is according to Nate Taylor. Remember the offseason he got traded? What were people talking about after the trade? Oh, Tyreek was not at Patrick's wedding. And I know. This kind of turns into a gossip rumor type of conversation, but it wasn't just fans in the media. Like even Tim Grunhard, who does a lot of media, and he's been on this podcast before, Tim Grunhard went on local radio and was like, yeah, I'm fully aware that Tyreek was not at Patrick's wedding. Now, I know Brittany has spoken about this publicly. People were not allowed to have their phones on them. I think people had to hand their phone to somebody that was responsible for keeping everyone's phone safe and secure because they did not want pictures out there. And I think part of it is because, some guys, a lot of famous people were there. The Hunt family, I would imagine, that was there. Andy Reid, a lot of players were there. A lot of celebrities were there. So they don't want to show anyone that might have been drunk, dancing, all that kind of thing. Brody Croyle was on the podcast. He said that Hard Knocks was begging and pleading to film he and his wife's wedding. And Brody was talking about how, if they were there, you would have seen Jared Allen breakdancing, everyone else, maybe drunk dancing, all kinds of things. And I don't think you want celebrities, that kind of thing being out there. Who was at the wedding? Kareem Hunt. This was when Kareem Hunt had already been off the team for a few years. Kareem Hunt, despite getting kicked off the team, he still had a really good relationship with Patrick Mahomes, with Travis Kelce, with Andy Reid. Andy Reid has talked about it multiple times that he and Kareem had a conversation at Patrick's wedding. So that's one big reason why Tyreek's not coming back, is because I don't know if he'd be welcomed back, whether it's the players or the front office. Another reason why Tyreek would not be welcomed back, that contract, man. And some people might say, yeah, but Tyreek could maybe realize his mistake and take a big pay cut to come back and win again. Look, not that it's any of my business, but y'all know he's got a bunch of kids. I don't want to be in that position. Like if you have a bunch of kids with the same mama, fine. But that's not Tyreek's situation. And he's involved in a legal matter for allegedly domestic violence. Not my place to speak. But he needs the money far more than he needs rings right now. Like if I'm Tyreek Hill, I don't give a shit about rings. I will take every single cent a team wants to give me. Because let's be honest, he's going to need that once his football career is over. With that many kids, I'm just being honest. And here's another thing to keep in mind as to why the Tyreek trade will not work. If the Chiefs could not keep Joe Thuney, why do you think they'll bring back Tyreek Hill? If the Chiefs were seriously considering bringing back Tyreek Hill, they would have kept Joe Thuney. That's just the way I see it. Priest plus Larry was a filthy combo, dude. I remember being there. My parents took my brother and I to the Chiefs Jets game in 2005, that season opener. Dude, Priest and Larry tore up that defense. Priest Holmes, he had those 3 remarkable seasons. Larry Johnson, back-to-back 1,700-yard seasons. Unfortunately, injuries, and I know with Larry there were some personal issues there, but boy, those were some damn good seasons at the running back position for Kansas City. Yeah, Tony Richardson, that guy. And with his position, you don't get a lot of recognition. 33% of Taekwon's receptions are for more than 25 yards. People don't realize how much that deep threat will open up the rest of the offense. That is true. That's very true. Taekwon is 6'2", runs 4.28, and can Make contested catches. Like, what more can you ask for? That's a great point, Max Tape. You know what he said? He was on Nightcap with Unk and Ocho. He said he ran a 4.1. Listen, you hear this bullshit all the time that players claim that's not really what my 40 time is. They made a mistake. I don't know, man. I remember when McCole Hardman got drafted. I guess there were some questions about what his 40 time really was, and I think I remember Mitch Holtis during the draft hype that they were hosting. He was introducing him as a guy who lasered in at 4.28. And it's like, okay, I mean, listen, he's fast. We get it. So I don't know. I mean, you hear this a lot from players. They say, oh, that's not what my 40 time really was. They were split second late. I don't know. I wonder if Jackson Dart with the Giants will help turn that team around. Wilson was never the answer. I'll say this. Jackson Dart has two damn good wide receivers in Wan'Dale Robinson and Malik Neighbors. Like, I would give up a lot of things to have those two wide receivers on my team. I think there are a lot of NFL offenses that would trade their entire wide receiving room and maybe a couple draft picks to have those two guys. I'm being facetious, but you know what I mean. Like that, those two wide receivers can do some damage. I'm a big fan of Malik Neighbors, and I think Malik Neighbors is having a better career than Marvin Harrison Jr. I know Marvin Harrison Jr. got that touchdown in the end there, but he's had some issues with being able to hold on to the football, and we know about that here in Kansas City. Let's see. Where was the next question? Christopher's also asking, do we have any major concerns on playing against DeAndre Hopkins this weekend? Not really. He's made some tough catches, and I know Chiefs fans have been very critical of that. I don't know, man. He's not necessarily lighting it up. He's making some tough catches, but he's not like being a massive difference maker for the Ravens offense. Richard says, I thought this was football talk. Richard, you are new to the Red Friday. Dude, we have gone way out of bounds so many times on this live stream. I mean, sometimes we'll like talk about barbecue and movies, video games, Final Fantasy. You guys know I'll always entertain a Final Fantasy or a Star Wars discussion. I'm so over the Tyreek Hill talk. So am I. But people love to have that conversation. Chiefs will be fine when Rice gets back. They need a running back to do something more so than they need a wide receiver. I do agree with that. I don't think the Chiefs are going to be going after a wide receiver. I think just a little bit of patience with the wide receiver room is gonna go a long ways. Because once Rice comes back, I do think it's going to be a much different looking offense. I do agree. Holly says should have kept Tooney. Well, I mean, I agree, but Kansas City was fine. I mean, listen, you can't be over the cap. Once the new league year starts, you must be under the cap. Otherwise, the league will start cutting players for you, and you don't ever want to leave it in their hands. Look, the Chiefs have to trade Tyreek Hill for a reason. They traded Joe Tooney for a reason. They traded L'Jarius Sneed for a reason. And I'm still seeing all these comments, oh, we should have kept Sneed. Dude, Sneed's like been dealing with a shit ton of injuries since he left the Chiefs. That dude missed all of training camp. He only played 5 games last year. Tooney, yeah, that's one I think hurts more than Tyreek and Sneed. But the Chiefs always find a way, man. They always find a way. The problem with the Chiefs, and this is a great problem to have, they keep drafting really well, and they are able to find, second tier free agents who come to Kansas City and do really well for them. So that's part of the reason why the Chiefs keep finding themselves in that position. Priest Holmes is pounding the drum. Yes, he is. Hopkins never did much in KC either. Unfortunately, definitely had high hopes for him. Well, I got to push back a little bit. Statistically, no, Hopkins did not do much in Kansas City, especially with his skill set. He doesn't really fit this offensive scheme, but the Chiefs were desperate. Like Hollywood had been missing a lot of games. Rice was out for the season. They needed someone. Worthy was just a rookie still learning the system. When Hopkins joined the Chiefs, if you remember, Patrick Mahomes was leading the league in interceptions. When Hopkins joined the Chiefs, I think Mahomes only threw one pick the rest of the season. I'm going to double check on that to make sure, because Patrick's interception numbers dropped drastically when Hopkins joined the team. Let's see. The first one, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The first 7 games, and that does include Hopkins' debut with the Chiefs, where he barely knew the offense, and he only had 3 catches that game, I think. So Patrick, the first 7 games, he threw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He threw 9 picks before November. And I think that was more than any other quarterback in the league. After that, he only threw 2 picks, and they were in the same game. That was against Buffalo. So from November to the end of the regular season, in November and December, because Patrick did not play the regular season January game, Patrick only threw 2 picks, and they were in the same game, and that was against Buffalo. So I would say, yeah, Hopkins did not do much on the stat sheet, but as far as his presence, that made a big difference for Patrick's interception numbers. On Instagram, Grim2Cam is asking, should we bring back Eric Bieniemy? Everyone's been asking this. I'll say this right now. If you think that the issues on offense are not Nagy related, fine. But here's a question I will ask you. Why have Patrick's numbers dropped with Matt Nagy as the offensive coordinator? Because you can't just sit there and say injuries. Because in 2023, the Chiefs had merely the same wide receiver room, did they not? All they did was let Juju walk. They were trying to bring him back, but he went on to New England, and they drafted Rashee Rice. And Justin Ross was available for you because he wasn't available in 2022. So you had really the same wide receiver room from 22 to 23. But for whatever reason, everyone just started dropping a bunch of passes. And I've said this a lot back in 23. If it was just one player dropping passes, I'd be like, okay, this is an issue with that player. But if the entire wide receiver room was dropping passes, it's like, wait a minute. The coaches are not doing a good job of addressing this and trying to improve on this. Even Justin Ross, who barely played for the Chiefs in 2023. Dude, I remember a game where Ross dropped 2 passes. It's like, even this guy who's low on the depth chart and people want to see more of him because of all the hype that he got coming out of college, even that guy was dropping passes. Because Marquez Valdes-Scantling, he left Kansas City, went to the Saints one year. He got let go by Buffalo, but he goes to the Saints. That dude's catching everything thrown his way. And I know MVS is now turned into a journeyman, but why was it that he was able to catch everything with the Saints, but 365 days ago, he dropped that pass on Monday Night Football against the Eagles that every single college football player makes? The drop issues were not terrible last year. Last year was more of an availability thing. This year, we're kind of starting off with availability being an issue again. And I know there was that ESPN report that the Chiefs are kind of fed up with the unavailabilities at the wide receiver position. But you'd like to think that it's going to get patched up very soon with Worthy coming back and Rice in a couple more weeks. So is Eric Bieniemy going to make that much of a difference? I think so. I'm saying yes. Eric Bieniemy held players accountable. Listen, not that we can ever prove this, but the sword I'm willing to fall on is that if Bieniemy was the offensive coordinator in 2023, the drop issues were going to get erased mid-season. Eric Bieniemy was not going to let that shit fly. Like LaShawn McCoy, I know he doesn't like Bieniemy, probably because he yelled at you and told you need to do a better job of carrying the football. That dude just got in your face. He didn't care about hurting your feelings. He didn't care about being your friend. I know Mahomes has got a really good relationship with Matt Nagy. He went with Matt Nagy to all of Tate Nagy's high school games. They have a really close connection. They went to a lot of high school games together. Nagy, who's now at KU. So, listen, man, Bieniemy was not looking to be buddy with any player. He was looking to win with you. Be Quick 23, he always throws more in the first half of the season, hardly ever in November and December. I don't really agree with that. More recently, yes. But in the past, that hasn't necessarily been the case, because in years past, it's always been noted, and it's been a big deal about how great Patrick plays in September, especially in weeks 1 and 2. And recently, we haven't necessarily seen that. Let's see. Let's go back to Facebook, X, and YouTube. Going to my first ever Chiefs game this Sunday, bringing in the love from Oklahoma. All right. Shout outs to Holly, her first Chiefs game. Have fun. Have fun. I think you're in for a damn good game, Holly. That's going to be quite a memorable first game. Very good point. Mahomes, to this point, only has one interception. Yes, and that is the one that's off Travis Kelce's hand. He's got a couple of close ones. Every player does. Every quarterback does. But yeah, the one single interception he has is the one that was off Travis Kelce's hands. And I know leaders will always take the blame for these kinds of things, but that one's not on Mahomes. Got to contain Jackson and Henry. Yeah, I think containing Henry will be much easier. Jackson, that one's going to be easier said than done. They did a great job of that in the AFC Championship game, but in the season opener last year, not so much. Likely is questionable, to answer your question, Robert. Likely is questionable. Who would have thunk that hiring an OC from Chicago would be a bad idea? I mean, he's a running backs coach now. Here's my thing with Bieniemy. That guy went to... Why did he leave the Chiefs? He left the Chiefs because nobody was hiring him. Okay, well, why weren't any teams hiring him? Because they felt like he was a product of his surroundings. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, like everyone felt like everyone, and even from the public standpoint, whenever things are working on offense, do Eric Bieniemy or did Eric Bieniemy or does Matt Nagy now, do either of those guys get credit when things work on offense? Seriously, ask yourself this for a moment here. Whenever something goes well on offense, does Matt Nagy get credit for it? Did Eric Bieniemy ever get credit for it? No. Nobody ever said, great job by Bieniemy and Nagy. No. Who got credit for it? Patrick Mahomes did. Andy Reid did. Travis Kelce did. Tyquan Thornton did. Tyreek, like whoever. Nobody ever credited the offensive coordinator. But whenever things are not working, the same people are so fast to blame the offensive coordinator. I don't get that. It does not make sense to me. It's like one of those take credit for when it works and then don't take credit when it doesn't work. Listen, we all love Mahomes and Kelce and Reid. Like those guys are going to have statues in Arrowhead or the new Arrowhead, if you know what I mean. But let me just say this. Those guys aren't above criticism. They're not. I love those guys as much as the next Chiefs fan. And they've brought us a lot of joy for this football team the last few years, but they have their fair share of errors too that deserve criticism at time. You don't have to say that that we have to forget about their past success. No, if you're going to criticize someone for that game, I think that criticism is deserved. I just feel like the offensive coordinator conversation gets so blown up. And to go back to my point about Bieniemy, he left Kansas City because he never got the credit. Everyone else did. So he had to go prove himself as an offensive coordinator for the Commanders. And who was their quarterback? Sam freaking Howell. I don't know who you consider to be the best offensive coordinator of all time. I don't know what offensive coordinator is going to win with that quarterback. And then he had to go to UCLA, who, let's be honest, did not have a great team either. So he's honestly been given like the short end of the stick every time, in my opinion. Listen, I'm a big fan of Bieniemy. I think he did a lot of great things for Kansas City. I don't think it's fair that he didn't get a head coaching job because everyone else around him was top tier. Mahomes, Kelsey, Reed. Like, I just don't think that's fair. You can't hold that against someone. I mean, Josh McDaniels was surrounded by Brady and Belichick. He still got head coaching offers from the Broncos, from the Colts, which he kind of backdoored them, and also the Raiders. Listen, as much as I'd hate to say it, I'd love to see Bieniemy get a head coaching job with one of the AFC West teams if that opportunity ever comes. Because I think at that point, it's like, okay, you can't be mad at him if he were to accept the job in the division. Like, he deserves a chance. I know there are all kinds of rumors out there about his relationship with Andy Reid. Andy Reid tried to shut some of it down. I don't know if people bought it, but I think the story and the criticism surrounding Bieniemy is just not fair, in my opinion. Michael, you're never late. Although we're probably close to wrapping up. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. Just stay healthy, please. Please. I need to see that wide receiver trio like a human needs air to breathe. Just give me one game with that wide receiver trio. I just want to know what it's going to look like. I mean, the more games, the better, but yeah, I'd love to see it. I really would love to see it. If Hollywood, Worthy, and Thornton can all make it to week 7, oh boy, Mahomes is going to eviscerate the Raiders in week 7. I told you guys earlier in the week, I'm traveling out of the country that week. So I have to make sure I bet on DraftKings before. I'm not doing the VPN bullshit. I don't know how to do that. I don't want to mess up my phone, but I am betting the over on everything Mahomes for that game. Like, how can you not? Randy says Eric Bieniemy was with the team when the Chiefs had no target on their back and they were still trying to win a Super Bowl for Andy Reid. Okay. I mean, to an extent, I get what you're saying, Randy. I mean, the Chiefs were not really the storylines surrounding the Chiefs back then were not the same now. Okay, I get what you're saying, but I still think he brought the best out of everyone. Tyreek Hill, the year he got traded, he started a podcast, and if you guys remember the Buffalo game in 2021, where Buffalo just destroyed the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football, Tyreek Hill shared a story on his podcast. Eric Bieniemy, I mean, he did not hold back that week in practice. He let the players know that they let Buffalo do that to them. Like, dude, sometimes you've got to have a coach that is there to let you know you fucked up. That's what Bieniemy did. And listen, I don't want to say anything controversial. I get we're kind of in an age now where college athletes and young professional athletes today, they really do frown on the yelling style from coaches. Listen, man. I remember I got into sports at a late age, but I remember my first time playing basketball. I was the tallest guy on my team. Funny story about me. I had this crazy growth spurt in middle school, and after that, I didn't grow anymore. I went from like being 5'1" to 5'11" in the 6th grade. So my parents were like, "You got to play basketball." Unfortunately, I never got taller than that. But I'm my coach in basketball. His whole game plan was get the ball to Farzine. I'm like, okay, I'll take that game plan. But dude, it was my first ever basketball game. I was nervous. During like a game, not calling a timeout, he calls me to the side. And if you guys got kids, turn down the volume. He signals to me to come to the near the bench while the game's going on. He goes, "Quit being a pussy." That's what he told me, and I deserved it. Like, someone had to tell me something. But eventually you get going because there's someone there to let you know you got to play better, and that's what Bieniemy did. Let's see. We'll take a few more questions before we get out of here. Christopher says, speaking of the new Arrowhead, what's the latest you have seen on the stadium deal? Have they leaned towards staying in Missouri or Kansas? I haven't seen anything about it lately. None of us have seen anything about it lately. The answer is no. We don't know. This is like its own reality show. It really is, dude. Like, listen, I did a Q&A last week on Instagram and Facebook on my stories, and somebody asked this, and I'll say the same thing. Someone asked then. I think it's pathetic that they haven't even made a decision yet. The fact that they even asked the state of Kansas to extend the Star bonds, pathetic. Like, I mean, listen, I'm not in this Kansas versus Missouri border war. Like, that bullshit's no. I've said this before. Like, as a naturalized American citizen, I do not understand Americans hating on other American states and cities. Are there some places that are not safe in this country? Yeah, you have that across the country. There are a lot of cities that I try to avoid in Kansas City because they're not the safest. But there are also a lot of good parts in Kansas City, both on the Kansas and Missouri side. I know there are people who are like, "Oh, avoid Kansas. That place is bad." Okay, what's bad about it other than you don't like it? This is not a KUMU thing. Like, that's not what this is. I said for a long time, number one, if the Chiefs are going to spend any kind of money, I want them to not waste their money and do it right. And number two, I want them to stay in the KC area. The fact that it's taking this long is pretty embarrassing. Should I be surprised? Probably not. Because when you look at that campaign, and I know people are blaming the Royals because the Royals and the Chiefs were tied together. And people feel like the Royals brought down the Chiefs, and that's why the vote was a blowout against the two teams. But guys, what did the Chiefs do with their renovation plans that blew you away? Like, what about that renovation plan made a Jackson County voter say, "Oh yeah, let's spend $800 million on that"? Now they've raised it to $1.15 billion, and for whatever reason, none of the senators bothered asking the representative of the Chiefs why the money went up. And you can't say inflation because inflation did not go up 30 some odd percent. Nor has anyone in the media asked why the rise in the renovation plan went up. Anyway, I don't know. Like, why is it taking this long? I will say this. I know about Jackson County. They're about to vote on recalling Frank White. People feel like Frank White has done. They feel like he had a big hand in holding down the Chiefs and Royals. I disagree. I don't think Frank White made the Chiefs give a really bad renovation plan. I don't think he made the Royals have the worst campaign of all time to the point where the Royals did not even know where they wanted to go. And even now they still don't know where they want to go. There are rumors. I mean, they have they own the land at the Asperia campus, but they haven't really done anything with it. I don't know. This is a really weird soap opera. It was quiet for a long time, and in the summertime, it got really crazy. And then it went back to being really quiet. The last I heard, Mark Donovan in his interview on SiriusXM, this was like during the preseason, somewhere around that time. And Alex Smith was one of the interviewers. Alex Smith asked about the stadium situation. Mark Donovan said they have a renovation plan and they like what they have there. And they also have a plan for a dome stadium in Kansas and they like what they have there. Here's my question. What's nothing? Actually, it's not really a question. Nothing's going to change drastically with your renovation plan at the Truman Sports Complex or with the new stadium at the Legends, the potential new stadium at the Legends. Like, you already know what you're going to have and what it's going to approximately cost you. So what exactly are you waiting on? Are you waiting on the Royals? Like, if you're waiting on the Royals, you're going to be involved on this you're going to be sitting on this for quite some time. If you're waiting on the Frank White vote, okay, I can understand that. Because Frank White's proposing a really terrible deal for the Chiefs that they will not take in Jackson County. It sounds like they really want to stay in Jackson County. but I don't even think they feel confident in saying. Here's another thing too, and this is how much of a disaster this whole thing has been. The mayor has said on his live stream that they can do more to activate the area around the Truman Sports Complex. Clark Hunt in training camp was asked the exact same thing. He says, no, that's not possible to do, which I agree with. I mean, the Truman Sports Complex, I mean, there are neighborhoods in that area. And then on the eastern side of it, you have a couple of those gas stations there, and then a path that gets you to I-70. Like, what are you going to do? Like, let's say the Royals leave. Are you going to really turn that Royals, where Kauffman Stadium could formerly be, are you going to turn that into like a Zona Rosa or a Legends area? Because no one's going to go there during the off season. I'm not going to go to the Truman Sports Complex to hang out at a sports bar there. There are plenty of better options across the metro area for that. So again, I have no idea what's going on, what the holdup is. I would imagine the Frank White vote has a hand in the holdup. Here's another thing to keep in mind. Frank White, or I'm sorry, not Frank White, Mark Donovan did say that they might do another local vote to try to raise the 50% up to maybe 70 or 80 in Jackson County to get some local assistance. And somebody asked Mark Donovan, what would happen if you guys got rejected again? And he had kind of a stern look on his face, and he admitted that that would put them in a really bad position. Because let's be honest here, we're in September, almost October of 2025. If you're going to build and open a new stadium, it needs to be ready for 2031. Because I've seen people comment and say, oh, what's the hurry? They still have a few years. You can't just snap your fingers and say, okay, here's your brand new dome stadium. These things take a while to build. And I don't have the information in front of me, but I did a podcast months ago talking about how long some of these, let me do Allegiant Stadium, for example. How long did that take to build? Broke ground November 13, 2017, and it opened in 2020. Okay, so that took you about 3.5 years. So, you got to propose a design and have the pieces ordered, all that stuff in place, and then have it delivered and ready to construct in time for 2031. And if you're going to do all that, you probably need to start turning the wheels on that soon. Because Clark Hunt said he wanted to have this done last year. Well, we're in 2025. We're more than halfway through 2025. We keep thinking we're going to see the end of this, but it just keeps dragging out. I don't think it needs to take this long. Yeah, you guys got me fired up on that one there. Antoinette says it seems like during football season it's on hold. I mean, all you're doing is dragging it out longer than it really needs to be. Because there are some people who are saying that Kansas is being used as a puppet in the process just so Kansas can use the Chiefs can use Kansas as leverage to get what they want from Missouri. I don't know, man. It's really gone all over the place. The senator from Kansas, Ty Masterson, who wants to run for governor, he is really confident. And listen, I know Governor Mike Kehoe, he's also confident. But Ty Masterson did an interview on KCMO Talk Radio with Pete Mundo and said if he's not a betting man, but if he had to, he would bet that the Royals would come over more so than the Chiefs. But he's confident that both of them are going to make the switch. When Mayor Lucas said back in July that they should have something soon. Well, it's almost October. I don't know what their definition of soon is, but it's just going on. It's your birthday. Happy birthday, John. They want the city to take the money and they are making for the Chiefs being successful to spend it on the stadium. Bullshit by that. Look, I don't disagree with you. Like, I think every owner should pay for their own stadium, but that's not really how things go. Look at how long it's taken to build the new Buffalo Stadium. Let me see that one. That's actually good. That's an outdoor stadium too. So, not that I know much about construction, but if it's not if it's not going to have a dome, that's probably going to take a shorter amount of time. It broke ground 2 years ago, June 5th, 2023, and it should be open by July 1st in 2026. So in about 9 months, 9 or 8 months. There you go. Now, I don't know the process. How long did that take them to decide on that? I don't know. Here's the other thing, too. I know there's this big debate as to whether or not football should be played outside or indoors. First of all, a lot of the Super Bowls are played indoors. They're either indoors or they're in a warm climate. We're seeing more and more indoor stadiums, whether people like it or not. Listen, as someone who absolutely hates the cold, I will avoid Arrowhead in October, definitely November and December. I've been to a December game at Arrowhead. It sucks. It sucks. The only thing I'm willing to do outdoors is go to my local park and go for a walk because I love the park that's near my home. It's a great park. I will definitely bundle up doing that. I do not like staying outdoors in the cold for too long. But man, it's this has really gone on for longer than it needs to be. Takes 2 to 3 years to build apartments. Yeah, I mean, look at the new Jayhawk Stadium that they renovated. It really does look like a brand new stadium. It doesn't really look like a renovation. I know it's not even fully complete. They still have to renovate the other side where the student section is and where the families sit. But man, that they had to have the Jayhawks play at Arrowhead or at Sporting Park all last year because of that. And again, that was just for one side of the stadium. I guess there's talks of the Chiefs playing internet, or not the Chiefs, I'm sorry, the Jayhawks playing internet. Well, the Chiefs too. Just to give the construction workers more time this upcoming offseason to finish the remainder of the project. Yeah. I don't know, man. I think it's ridiculous it's taken this long. They've got to start turning the wheels on this soon. And here's another thing. The Chiefs spent a whole week in Vegas for the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. Not only did they play at Allegiant, but they also used the Raiders practice facilities. So they know what a brand new practice facility looks like. There are a lot of things wrong with their current practice facility. That one opened in 2010, so it's not technically old, but it's not new either. But it could have been more modernized back then for 2010. There are rumors about whether or not the practice facility will even be in the same county if they move to Kansas. I think they should honestly be near each other. I think there's more benefit to that, but that's not really up to me. Christopher says cold weather helps the Chiefs too, so a dome would eliminate any advantage that gives. Yeah, but up until the Super Bowl against the Eagles, the more recent one, Mahomes was undefeated in domed games. And I guess the big deal about that Colts one in 22, apparently the dome was open. I would prefer a retractable roof, but again, like I think you're going to see more and more indoor stadiums. By 2031, if the Chiefs are going to be part of that trend, half the stadiums will be indoors. That's why I kind of wonder, Buffalo spending all this money, $2.2 billion on an outdoor stadium. That's going to be interesting. I think you're going to see very, very few outdoor stadiums. I would imagine Lambeau Field will stay the way it is. And I would imagine that Buffalo might be one of the very few. Nate Taylor said on their podcast, we going to Kansas, and left the podcast and never said anything else about it. Don't know what he meant. That's a great way to be cryptic and leave all kinds of speculation on the door. Why not? Man, we've been going for an hour and a half. This has been a fun Red Friday Q&A live chat to the point where I completely lost track of time. So what I'm going to do is get out of here. I'm going to go enjoy the rest of my Red Friday, and hopefully you guys do as well. Hey, we covered a lot of great things here, talking about the Chiefs, the upcoming game on Sunday, also talking about the stadium. That was also a big topic here on this episode of the Red Friday Live Chat. Thank you all for joining me for this episode of the Red Friday Q&A Live Chat. If you guys enjoyed this, please share it with your friends. Let them know about this live stream, sharing and commenting, liking all the content on social media. That greatly helps out a lot on Facebook, YouTube, X, Instagram, Threads. Please continue to do that. I greatly appreciate all of you guys. I'm Farzin Vasugian. I'm going to get out of here. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Reminder, pregame live chat, 11 a.m. Central Time. Join me for that on Sunday. Talk to you then.